Hi, this is Zibby Owens, and you're listening to the award-winning podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. And speaking of books, I have two of my own books coming out this spring and summer. Princess Charming is a picture book, which debuts on April 19th, and Bookends, a memoir of love, loss, and literature, comes out on July 1st, and it is truly a labor of love. I hope you'll pre-order, order, and join me on tour as I go across the country. You can find out more at zibbyowens.com or bookendsmemoir.com. And you can follow me on Instagram at zibbyowens because I always post about everything. Enjoy the show. Emily Wibberley and Austin Siegemund-Broka are co-authors of The Roughest Draft. They met and fell in love in high school. Austin went on to graduate from Harvard, while Emily graduated from Princeton. Together, they are the authors of several novels about romance for teens and adults. Now married, they live in Los Angeles, where they continue to take daily inspiration from their own love story. Aw. Welcome, Austin and Emily. Thank you so much for coming on Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books to discuss The Roughest Draft.
Thank you so much for having us.
So introduce yourselves. Obviously, one of you is a man and a woman. But just in case, introduce yourselves and we'll jump right into it.
I'm Emily Wibberley. And I'm Austin Siegemund-Broka.
And how did you two pair up? Why did you decide to write this book? What are we doing here? Tell me the whole story.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this book is a long time coming. This is the culmination of a long journey. We've been writing together for 6-7 years, which is most of our adult lives. It started with Emily.
Yes. I mean, we should say that we are married and we have been together since we were in high school. So we met sometime in middle school or high school. It's unclear. And we've been dating. We've been dating since we were 17.
Yep.
And then we went to college and I decided I wanted to write. And then one day I was always kind of bouncing ideas off of Austin and we were brainstorming with him. And one day I was like, well, why don't you just take a look at this and add to it? And then that is how the partnership began.
And I was thrilled to join on. I've always loved, story and books and literature as well. And it was always a real point of mutual interest for us. As a couple, there are things you talk about more than others. You got to have some mutual interests, some things in common. And we loved reading, writing, story, breaking down movies, TV, whatever we were reading. And so the jump to applying those conversations to things we were working on ourselves felt very natural. So our writing partnership began there and kind of took off, inspired by perhaps our own high school romance. We started in the young adult space and have written there for some time. And The Roughest Draft was our jump to adult romance, which I think was inspired, as much by the market and by this idea we were really excited to have, as by the fact that we ourselves are growing up in a phrase and wanted to work with characters who were dealing with some of the logistical and existential pressures that we are now looking into.
Wow. Well, I have to say, I was sort of surprised that your characters were as young as they were. Maybe because as a 45-year-old woman, I just assume every protagonist is me or something like that. But as I was reading it, you don't reveal the ages until a little bit into it. And then I was like, oh, what? This is how they're like, what, 31 and 28 or something like that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, wow, but they seem so wise and they seem to have gone through so much at this point. And she's already become a bestseller, right? You open it up when I'm really bad with names, especially character names. Tell me your character names.
Katrina, and
Katrina, right. Katrina. So Katrina's like in the bookstore and somebody's trying to sell her own book, which is such a great scene. It's so, and to have it in a book, it's like, so the whole thing is so meta. I love it. And I just thought, at first I thought, oh, this is like a white-haired older lady who's like wandering in for her successful book. And then I'm like, what? No, it's this like really cool younger woman who's already been so weathered by the book writing process, basically. So
I mean, that was important to us. The publishing process, years are made up of days, and sometimes the days are very long and very confusing. And so we wanted to write characters who were closer to our own age, but also to characters who felt like they'd already achieved and won and lost so much. And the stretch of life before them was now long and confusing.
Well, how old are you guys? Can I even ask that?
Yeah, I'm 30. I just turned 30.
I am just 29, so dating an older woman.
But
I'm married to a younger man, if it makes sense. Wow. And you've already done so much. Oh my gosh. This is humbling for everybody listening. And you're really good writers. I mean, this is a really great book. I'm serious. You really get into you immediately show us who the characters are on like an emotional deep level, like what they're thinking and feeling and all of that. But with the alternating narratives and all that, it's like the plot itself is propulsive. You're like, what is going to happen? Like, I want to be in this Key West house myself right now. Like, how do I get into this house is the thing. You know,
we felt the same.
Right? This like dream house. Do you go on Zillow and like pretend to have your characters live in houses?
Yes.
Totally.
And like we had planned, you know, when we were, you know, coming up with the idea and pitching it, we were like, well, we'll totally do this. Like when we sell the book, we will totally go and rent a house for a couple weeks and like write some of the book, like do method writing with Katrina and Nathan. Mm-hmm. And then of course the pandemic, we sold it like in March of 2020. So that was not really, deadline did not line up with being able to travel.
Still haven't made that Florida trip.
One day.
I love this like bullying agent character. Tell me about him and how he came to be.
No, he's really the only true villain we've written in our whole career. If we had somebody that Katrina was with out of a sense of needing some stability and some security in her life, we really needed him to be somebody the audience would root for her to pull back from. So we kind of invested in him every publishing cliche and every male cliche.
And a little bit more, you know, our one of our agents' early notes was like, can you make him more of like a Hollywood agent so that that it's more believable that he's so
wicked.
And we were like, for sure. Because I think we're like, it's not a reflection of you, our lovely agent.
It's just
yeah. Nothing like him.
Wow.
But he was fun to write, to be honest. Somebody who embodied so many manipulative, so many nasty traits that professional spheres in all industries sort of occupy. So
wow. I love how Nathan gets so inspired by Katrina's conversation with the agent who's also, you know, her longstanding fiance. And he's like, oh, well, this is great. And then he just starts writing the scene as it is. And that he can kind of look into, he can, all the body language, right? He reads into all of it, how she's sitting, because he knows Katrina so well from writing the previous book. You know what? I should have backed up and asked you guys to describe this book. I'm not supposed to say you guys anymore, right? Isn't that like something you're not supposed to say?
That's right.
What is could the two of you please explain the plot a little better now that I've been like chit-chatting with you about it?
Yes, we would be glad to.
The Roughest Draft is about two authors who have written a best-selling novel together, but split under mysterious, unknown circumstances. And years later, they have another book under contract, and for different professional or personal reasons, they both agree that they will return to a house together to write this one last book and sort of face what has happened between them.
Wow. I love how they even argue about how they're going to do it. Like when Nathan's like, all right, was it Nathan? No, Katrina at first was like, we'll do parts and then we'll trade off sections. And he was like, no, we're not doing that. Right. We have to do it together. So how do you two do it? Like how, now that, you know, you're like Nathan and Katrina here. I mean, this is so like, I'm like in the real book right now.
Let me tell you, we have debated over how and what logistical means we will actually get the writing done. Our process is pretty similar to theirs, although with some key differences. We write just about everything together in the same room. It is not a trading chapters situation or a one person takes one perspective and the other person takes another. We basically try to write every line on every page together. What this commonly looks like is Emily sitting across the room with the outline she has thoroughly crafted, sort of explaining what has to happen next in the paragraph and the sentence, and me offering solutions on how to spin it into prose. And then we talk about those and what finally goes in the book. Sometimes we sit next to each other and pass the computer, but we try not to make a habit of it.
Wow. And do you fight?
Oh, constantly.
All the time.
Like, yeah. So a lot of moments in the Roughest Draft are we wanted to get that across. So there is a lot of conflict from writing. And there is a scene in the book where Nathan and Katrina have a long-standing feud over a certain word, and the word is always. And that is that is real. That we just put that in because it was a fun little joke for ourselves that like Austin doesn't like the word always. And so I am always trying to fight to get it into the book because I like the word. And that was just a bit of fun we had.
Yeah, we'll be honest. Most of the writing disagreements and issues over pacing or how much to describe or where to start or word choice, most of those are exactly real. Obviously, the emotional angle for these characters is what we have invented completely, but the nuts and bolts are pretty authentic.
We generally, we fight, and then when the workday is over, we put it away, and we are able to go back to being a married couple with, just regular conflict and not screaming about a certain word.
I would feel like it would be very hard to shut off the work stuff, given that you're like living and breathing the novels and all of that. How do you separate it? How do you go to,
We probably don't we talk about work a lot over meals and stuff. And in fact, the Roughest Draft was an idea that we had while on our honeymoon.
Uh-huh. Oh, really?
Yes. And we got the idea on our honeymoon, and I was kept trying to brainstorm it while we were walking around Italy. And Austin's like, no, we're on our honeymoon. We are not going to work right now. Nope. So those issues do come up.
But yeah, we were honestly just chatting over the breakfast table in Florence, and Emily remarked that, having recently gotten married, our agent and editor must be reassured that we weren't going to break up now. Our writing partnership would continue to flourish. And we looked at each other and realized, well, what if we did? What would that look like? Mm-hmm. Authors who were bound to continue this career together despite wanting nothing to do with each other, despite having a storied past themselves. And the idea was born. And then it percolated, and we did not brainstorm it for the whole day, except we kind of did.
Wow, that's so fun. I had this idea yesterday when I was talking to an author about a book, or maybe I think an author recommended a book that I hadn't heard of, and I felt foolish not having heard of it. So I was kind of nodding along with it. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be funny if we invented some book that actually didn't exist and started making it a success and try to get it on the bestseller list, but actually there was no book.
Whoa.
I feel like
you want to write that for me? You guys write it, because I'm not a novelist.
Right, that's a brilliant publishing satire. That's the producers, but a little different.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's a book. Have you read? And then you have all these scenes where all these intellectual. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, of course, it was so great, and I read it here. I read The Galley. I read it.
Absolutely.
Great buzz. I can see the title now.
Ooh, great buzz. I love it. All right. Will you please write it? I want to read it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Top of the queue.
Put it on your list. If only I could make these projects just appear. The ideas are not the problem. It's just the execution of
Tell me about it. We've got
you must have a bazillion ideas.
iPhone notes scrolls long of stuff where it's it'd be cool to write that one day. I hope we get to it.
So what are you working on now?
Yeah.
We're actually working on revising our second adult novel, which is set to come out next year. And
we wish we could say more about it, but we're very excited.
You can't say a word?
Not
a little bit.
Yeah. It's a story about a marriage. It's a story about a couple whose marriage isn't in the place they want on their 5th anniversary, and on a anniversary getaway, they stumble on an unusual situation that might make things better.
Interesting. Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like, not to keep going about your age, but there is this wisdom. I'm serious. There is this wisdom in the characters that feels mature and thoughtful. And so I feel are you two old souls? Is that what it is? Are you older siblings? Where is this all coming from?
I am.
Have a tough childhood that you're working through.
We certainly have a lot of ups and downs in publishing.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm an only child. He's an older sibling.
Yes.
And, we did get together at 17. So it kind of reflects we sort of knew that we were this is it. We're good now. And so I think that because we've had so much relationship behind us, it just made us think like we were in a different part of our life when we were younger.
We really have had to negotiate a lot of logistical changes, a lot of life changes, a lot of those inflection points where you look at what you want to do and what you're committed to and say, no, I have to hold on to this thing that I know is real. Very much true in our relationship, very much true in publishing, where there have been ups and downs and confusions and points like these characters. And honestly, many of our friends who are our age have encountered similar things where we've sort of faced a couple choices now where you know that one way leads one way and the other way leads another way. Mm-hmm. And you have to think long and hard about how those will affect you. Mm-hmm. So we loved writing these characters because we felt we got to explore that more than we ever have in our young adult, where it's all about making those choices for the first time. This was all about getting in touch with characters who had already made some of those choices. And now we're seeing the effects of those rippling across the years. So it was a unique challenge for us. And I think a lot of that went into the characters because we enjoyed doing it. It was a very new creative task.
And as for the age thing, I mean, there are two of us, so our combined age is
it's a very good point.
We
like how business executives measure experience.
It's the benefit of having a co-author is that it's really a collaboration, and we really get to take advantage of the other person's brain, honestly.
Yeah.
And so, which of you was this now a high school breakup? Who of you like? Because the divorce. No,
I know. What is that from? You know, it's sort of like a thought experiment.
Yeah, these were nightmare versions.
Yeah,
which I shouldn't be saying like everything in fiction has to come from reality at all. And
the book is about. So.
I'm just prying into your relationship here, so excuse me.
I mean, this is exactly the theme we wanted to probe, though. Like to an extent, it does. It's often difficult writing opposite your spouse to slap those implicit disclaimers on certain things that you say. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, we have not had any sort of acrimonious breakup or any kind of acrimonious breakup at all. This was just like the Fleetwood Mac version of what our career could have been in the interest of literary fun.
And are you fans of Emily Henry? I know that Beach Read.
Yes.
Long time fans.
Beach Read came out like right when we finished writing the book. And I remember I was like, okay, so I got to read Beach Read and make sure that they are not the same book. And I like read it in a day, like right before we turned in the book. And I was like, all right, they're different books. Like it's all good. Right. But of course we adore Emily Henry and People We Meet on Vacation as well.
Yes.
Like, absolutely. All her books.
Who else do you love to read? Both of you?
Well, Taylor Jenkins Reid is another huge inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Both the richness of her contemporary storytelling, but also in stuff like Daisy Jones, it really gets at these creative relationships that are lifelong and sometimes life-torturing.
Yeah, but in romance, you know, we love anything that's meta. So like the Bromance Book Club, you know, anything that kind of interacts with romance as a genre, we love fun. A lot. Yeah.
Yeah, we adore the whole genre. It's been a lot of fun to sort of get into it. Basically learn this community and all of its nuances and make new friends, read great books, you know, the things you hope for.
I cannot wait until, well, I shouldn't assume this either. Are kids in your future?
Yes, one day they are.
Well, if and when that happens, I cannot wait to hear how you write about that.
Sure we'll figure something out to embarrass the young ones. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I am excited, very excited. Wow. Well, I feel like did you watch that movie with Diane Keaton a long time ago where she's writing the novel in the Hamptons, Jack Nicholson? Something's Gotta Give, is that what it's called?
Yes.
I feel like there's something similar, even though the characters are much younger. That's this sort of like beautiful setting, trying to write.
We love
very like cinematic. Anyway, is there hopes of this being a film or on the screen in some way, or do you already have a deal and I didn't know about it?
Certainly hopes. We will see what happens. You know, film is it's a
long process that has begun.
Yeah.
But it's a long process.
It's never till you get like across the finish line, you know, that something ever truly materializes. So fingers crossed we reach that finish line.
That's right. From your mouth to Hollywood's ears, Zibby. We're hopeful that things that have started to materialize pan out.
It could be neat to do a whole, you know, like a limited series, but they're different couples, different writing partners.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, sign us.
You know,
right? Wouldn't that be kind of neat?
Yeah.
Like collaborations, like Collaborations. Maybe that's another title.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll do that next.
Yeah, we got plenty of ideas cooking here. This is good.
This is great.
We gotta do this on the regular.
Yeah, I want to just like have a shared doc into your notes app.
In all seriousness, that's kind of how our partnership began. It's just like, oh, that'd be cool. Oh, yeah, that'd be good. Oh, that's a good idea. Like, and then there you are. Suddenly you're writing together 6 years later.
First, being on the side, it's like, it's a good idea, but do I want to invest 2 to 3 years of my life writing about it and then marketing it? And,
I know. That's
you have to
really love
it.
them. And honestly, we've had those ideas where like we've put a lot of time into it and then like it hasn't gone anywhere. And we're like, you know what? It's okay to let that one go. It's like there are other things that we love more.
Yes.
I got it. Amazing. Well, what advice do you have to aspiring authors?
Yeah.
Absolutely, reading widely in the genre is super important, and to finish those ideas. You know, it's really tempting to you come up with a great idea like on a call with someone, and then you want to just start writing that one, and so you forget about the one that you are 50% of the way through, and maybe it doesn't feel as fun and shiny anymore. And so to really just sit down and make yourself finish those projects that you know, maybe right now you're a little lost in them because you're in the middle, but at the beginning you really believed in them. And so find that again.
Yeah. You know, even when it's hard, keep going, because I think that sometimes people, particularly writers starting out, expect that it will always be fun and it will always feel like you're pouring your soul off the page. And a lot of days it doesn't. A lot of days it feels like you're just translating something your soul thought 3 months ago. And that's a lot harder and more granular a job than it sometimes feels. But we've always found that if you just kind of muscle through and do those parts that feel like work, when you get to the end and you read it back, you can have this wonderful moment of being like, oh yeah, I do love this idea. I'm so glad I got this down. I'm so glad I got through this because it actually works.
Amazing. Love it. All right. Well, I can't wait to see what comes next for you. I'm such a fan. I'll be following whatever you do.
Hi, I'm Zibby
really
and you're listening to the award-winning podcast, Moms Don't Have Time to Read Books. If you like this podcast, you will love my new anthology called Moms Don't Have Time to Have Kids.
Best of luck.
Check it out, and you'll hear from 49 authors about all sorts of things moms don't have time to do. All the authors have been on this podcast. Also, check out my TikTok with Zibby and Tracy, my other podcast, Sex Talk with Zibby and Tracy. Check out Moms Don't Have Time to Write on Medium. And of course, my new publishing company called Zibby Books. And now back to our daily author interview site and a quick hello from some of my kids. Hi. Hi.
Hello. Enjoy the show.